Evening and welcome to Ferguson City Council meeting for June the 11th. We're going to start with our opening ceremony. Meeting is now called to order. Let us stand for a silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. The pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Here. Here.
Here. Here. Here. A quorum is present. At this time, I request a motion to amend the agenda.
Mayor, may I make a motion to amend the agenda at this time? We'd like to request that we move item number 4 to item number 3, moving the manager's report after the special presentation.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. The agenda has been amended. Right now, we move to our public comment. We ask that you come to the podium, give us your name, your address. Timekeeper tonight. Clerk Pittman is going to keep time for us tonight. So speak up. And Clerk Pittman, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Henry Iwenofu. My residence is 17 Honeywell Drive. Iwenofu. I only want to request from the city the repair of our streets. I've been there for 2 years and our streets are unbearable. So that's my only comment for this evening, and I will appreciate some support on that matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Latanya Neely. My address is 346 South Delwood. And I just wanted to bring up, let's see. Actually, I think this is the one. There was a question about the Proposition U on the business license taxes. I was curious, it says it was going to go up to 2% and it will equal up to 8%. Do you think that's going to benefit a lot of the small businesses in Ferguson? And would that deter other businesses to move in Ferguson? The business taxes for their licenses?
The staff will comment on it later.
Okay,
So that's all you have to do is share your comment.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Deborah Moore, Highmont, AKA Highway 44. Question, have you guys rezoned Highmont? Is Highmont now commercial? Or are we still residential? The reason for that question, we have entirely too many auto repair and auto sale businesses opening on our street. So if my street is now commercial, I'm getting the heck out of Dodge. I've noticed that we have a lot of new police vehicles. I've seen pickup trucks, SUVs, different colors. I don't know what the heck's going on, but I really would like to know what's going on and where the funding came from for all of these vehicles. Code enforcement. I'm gonna continue to ride you guys about code enforcement and public works. If they are not educated, we need to send them for continuing education. Now, if I can drive down Highmont, Royce, Kurt, Fargo, and I can glance to my left and glance to my right and see things that should be done, they shouldn't have blinders on either when they drive down. If they do not know the processes and procedures, it's time they learn. My other comments are for our budget meeting. Oh, I do have something, one other thing. I've been hearing some comments about some of you are trying to propose that my subdivision and the subdivision on the opposite side of us on West Florissant, you guys are going to try to get us to pay for the maintenance of West Florissant. I don't utilize West Florissant. Maybe twice a year, if at that. Second, I do not own a business on West Florissant. If those business owners, or if you want to improve West Florissant, and if you want to maintain West Florissant, it needs to fall on you, because my home is not an open ATM, period.
Thank you, Ms. Deborah.
Ms. Deborah, if you have addresses for the car repair problems, please keep them.
Good evening. I'm Shirley Emerson, 261 Royce Drive. At the beginning of May, I addressed the council asking for a public meeting. We wanted a public meeting with the city manager, the members of the council, the members of the FNIP board, the city clerk, and the city attorney, so that we could understand and the city could explain the process on how they're handling the ARPA funds. Since that time, we have continued to reach out. Now, I did hear from Mr. Robnett yesterday, offering a date in July when he would be available, several dates in July, but this is disturbing to us because first of all, we did come at the beginning of May requesting a meeting. We're concerned because first of all, we want all of the aforementioned people to be there because we want to have a thorough dialogue with the citizens, and we want all of the city officials to be present, not just the members of the board of the FNIP board, or not just Mr. Robnett. The other thing is that we understand that July is a vacation month. And in fact, even, it's my understanding that even the council takes a vacation in July and August by only meeting once in those months. And so we feel that we need more time to have a meeting. We have proposed some dates in June, and that's when we would like to meet. And again, we would like for it to be a public meeting with all of the officials available and ready to dialogue with our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Emerson.
My name is Maxine Palmer. I live at 1327 Fargo Drive. My subject is force report. I've been complaining about the report, and I've been complaining about the report. I don't know how many times that I need to come up here and complain about it. The bathroom, they're now open. They used to not be open the first time I came up here and complained. But why don't the women's bathroom have locks on the door? I mean, somebody can come in there and come right in the bathroom with them. One of the people was out there on the tennis court playing tennis. He told me one of the stalls in the men's bathroom is broken, haven't been fixed several years. It's been like that. A tree has been uprooted out of the ground, supposed to been removed. The branches was hanging over in the tennis court. Cut the branches off. The branches are now down there beside the tree. If you go into the park off of Forestwood, there's parking space there. It's got a piece of concrete that you put on the highway. We got little kids out there playing sports. Supposing some of them fall down and hurt themselves. That piece of concrete don't supposed to be in the park. It had like holes there, probably done rotten away. They need to be replaced. When is the last time that park been paved? The lines where you park your car is fading away. The grass was cut. A lot of the grass was cut. It's still laying out there. That'll kill the other grass. You know, the tennis court got leaves on it, debris. That park is supposed to be clean, but why is that debris always still there when the park is clean? That's all I got to say.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, Council. Laverne Mitchum, 508 Hunters Ridge Drive. My concern tonight, Council, is a public information meeting, town hall meeting is way overdue for the citizens. It's way overdue. We need to meet with you all, town hall, public information meeting, whatever we want to call it, because we can't discuss and ask questions here. I went to the FNIP meeting and it was set up just like this. You make your public comment, no questions, no discussions. And Larry Robinette had given me some very good information, which I really did appreciate. But I thought when I went to the FNIP meeting, I would be able to ask some questions and get some discussions because he felt like we had given false information, and I never want to do that. So I thought if I go to the meeting, I'd get a better understanding. But let me just go on with this, why I say a public information town hall is way overdue for us. In February, this was in the Post. Ferguson to pay $4.5 million to settle debtors' prison suit. Now that was not a surprise. We knew that was coming. Then in May, we have suit claim Ferguson discriminated against Black women. That was in May. In June, and this article, you had to be a lawyer to really understand it, but I read it anyway. Promises in Ferguson unfulfilled. This has to do with the Mercy Clinic and some other things, but it gets real deep. Like I say, you almost have to be a lawyer. I probably need to sit down with Apollo to understand all that was in that article. But it is important that you all understand that we need to be able to talk to you all and ask questions. I know here you got to take care of the business. I understand that. I was on the council. But at some point, you all must understand, you can't keep pushing us aside and not have these meetings where we can have good discussions, get good understanding, and ask questions. We have to have that. So I ask every council member, city manager, everybody, we need a meeting where we can ask questions and have discussions about what's going on in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchum.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I came here today, first of all, I want to give kudos, the utmost thankfulness to Corey Gilbert. That field next to my house that I have been asking for, the city to come and cut down the trees and the grass and whatever he used, it came through there like a man eater and cut down the trees and the grass. And I just really want to thank him for that. That's the first thing I want to say. Second of all, I want to express my concerns once again about where the ARPA funds are for the streets that I had mentioned to you all about getting street improvements done. Streets like Robert, Hearn, Thomas, Shirley, I think it's Sheerfoot. What is that, Council? What is that, Chancellor, and Robert. Those are some streets that I had mentioned about getting some improvements done, because if you go down those streets, you got some potholes that are ridiculous. And I'm just trying to see if you all are going to address those potholes, meandering streams, erosion that's happening. And that's another thing as far as the sewage cleanage that that's going on those streets like Hearn and Thomas and all the rest of them, that they have floods down at the end of the street where once it rains, it just erodes. Where's your timer at? It just erodes, you know, the dirt and everything to the end of the street there. And so at what point in time is MSD and the city going to invest not only in the streets, but also in the infrastructure throughout the neighborhoods? Because that's something that a lot of times I see as I was walking when I was running for city council. A lot of the sidewalks are uneven, curbs are not done. I mean, I know a lot of things are happening on main streets right about now as far as restructuring is concerned, but when are you all gonna go inside the streets? And like on Georgia, you have the meandering stream that goes through the neighborhood. And I had people tell me about how they had couches in that stream. They had all kind of trash. If you look under there, it's trash. So when it comes to water actually flowing through there, it can't go anywhere, you know? So when are the streams and all of the different sewage going to be addressed? So that when it does rain, there's not a lot, you know, all that flooding, even though we know going down, straight down Suburban, it's a floodplain. We know that much. And I know on Mueller, where I live at, it floods, you know, if it's a real bad rain. So like I said, those are some of the things that I would like to have addressed, and maybe some answers, because I know last time I came to the meeting, there was no answers as far as the petition is concerned. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Do we have anyone on Zoom? She was the last person. Our public comments are closed. Now we move to our special presentation, West Florissant Transportation Development District, City Manager.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Rodney Krim. I serve as CEO and President of the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership. Tonight, we wanted to talk with you about the West Florissant Great Streets Project and how we got to where we are today. My colleague Maude Trost is here with me tonight, and she will give you a presentation about the background of the project and discuss an operations and maintenance option for you to consider. We also have Glenn Henninger, St. Louis County Transportation Division Assistant Division Manager, who will give a brief description of where we are with the project now. The partnership is proud to have played a part in helping St. Louis County receive this $18.2 million RAISE grant from the Department of Transportation for West Florissant and to continue working with Ferguson and Delwood residents, officials, and staff to make this project come to reality. I will now turn this over to Maud Trost, our Senior Project Manager, to present tonight's presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us here tonight. My name is Maud Bouchard Trost, Senior Project Manager with St. Louis Economic Development Partnership. So tonight, I'm going to give a, I believe this is an old presentation. Can I give you, sorry. Thank you, Clerk. All right, so this will be a brief history of West Florissant Great Streets improvement activities. Then we'll talk a little bit about the construction funding for that for the West Florissant Great Streets project. My colleague Glenn Henninger with St. Louis County will provide an update on project construction here in Florissant. And then we'll talk briefly about some considerations to address long-term operations and maintenance for the corridor. In this timeline, in 2013, Ferguson engaged with East-West Gateway through a grant to kick off a planning process to develop a Great Streets plan for West Florissant in Ferguson and Delwood. That this is a requirement in order to pursue federal funding for major projects. It was a year-long process that had a lot of community engagement activities and public hearings, town halls. In 2014, the West Florissant Great Streets Plan was published. And then one of the items that came out of that plan was considerations for if you get construction funding, how are you going to maintain it long-term? And that plan provided a few considerations, one of which is a transportation development district. As we know, soon after there was the civil unrest after the shooting of Michael Brown Jr. Between 2014 and 2018, a lot of the activity shifted and focused to recovery rather than just reconstructing the street. St. Louis Partnership was engaged with hiring a recovery coordinator who did a lot of the community engagement and visioning for rebuilding many of the sites that were impacted due to the civil unrest. We also focused a lot of county resources during that period of time around capacity building for the corridor. One of the things that has come out of that is with St. Louis County block grant funding, One West Florissant is a CDC that is a group of representatives who live along the corridor and are interested in beautification, safety, and youth engagement activities. Throughout that period of time, the county applied for federal funding to implement the Great Streets project several times as well. But because those applications were not accepted by the federal government, in 2018, the recovery coordinator, the project manager, and the community came together around a zoning and land use plan for the corridor. Ferguson helped to fund this consolidated zoning district that goes through Ferguson, Delwood, and parts of Jennings. And the outcome of it was a cohesive land environment for new developments along the corridor. This, again, called back to the West Florissant Great Streets Plan. And another thing that came out of the plan was a proposal that the most likely entity to fund long-term operations and maintenance may be a transportation development district. Ferguson adopted this consolidated zoning and land use plan in 2020. Then in 2020, Ferguson also adopted a comprehensive plan for the city. This plan also references the Great Streets Plan. It also talks about building capacity within the street and also asking residents to, residents consistently were emphasizing the need for improved transportation and improved connectivity. Looking at 2021, after 4 previous applications, countless hours of coordinated calls with key partners, including representatives from Ferguson, St. Louis County's ongoing commitment to sponsor engineering firms and other technical consultants to guide us through this federal grant process, and drafting many revisions. 5th time turned out to be the charm, and the Department of Transportation awarded the $18.2 million for a significant portion of the West Florissant Great Streets project. In 2022 and into 2023, there were public hearings around design and receiving feedback from the community, among other behind-the-scenes activities to prepare and have plans accepted by the state and federal government. So we're nearing the end of that process. And St. Louis County, one of the things that the county wants to do is to present, as a part of this construction funding, is present what the plan is to maintain this federal investment over the long term. And thanks to Mayor Jones, we really started getting a working group together and meeting more regularly in 2023 and into this year. Some of the representatives of these working group include staff from Ferguson, Delwood, and other people who have been, other entities that have been engaged in funding the construction process. Here is an overview of the construction costs to date and what the breakdown is to date. You can see the Department of Transportation is funding the majority of the construction at $18.2 million. St. Louis County is funding the gap at $5.3 million currently. We have a commitment of $1.5 million from Health and Homes. Great Rivers Greenway has a commitment of $500,000, so $500,000, and Bi-State Metro has a commitment of $200,000. Written into the construction, into the grant application that was accepted by the federal government, the city of Delwood and the city of Ferguson committed $10,000 each to the construction. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Glenn Henninger, to talk about where we are with the construction in Ferguson.
So I'm Glenn Henninger, by the way, St. Louis County Transportation. I see some familiar faces from our efforts on Chambers, which did not quite take shape, but we haven't forgotten about Chambers.
And you're
Just to
not
let
off
you
the
know.
hook. You're not off the hook on that either.
But as far as West Florissant goes, so I'm just here to kind of give you a brief overview of what that $23 million is going to be building. And it will be building, construction boots on the ground should start next spring. So anybody familiar with the master plan? The West Florissant was studied all the way from I-270 down to the railroad by the Buzz Westfall Center. And it was broken up into 5 segments. Each of those segments was, supposed to kind of get their own feel. They were supposed to be able to pick landscaping, things of that nature, just make it more of a community. This $23 million funds 3 of those 5 segments. So that's 3, 4, and 5. Segments 1 and 2 are from I-270 to roughly the Delwood Rec Center. And just like Chambers, those are not off our radar. It's just, it was way too big a chunk for us to try with one grant. The 18.2 million we did get was actually a reduced award. The ask was for 23. But in Ferguson, the project starts south of Chambers at the border between Ferguson and Delwood. Within segment 4, this is a snapshot of what's proposed in segment 4. A lot of backyards back to West Florissant. Existing condition today is a sea of pavement with a middle lane that's normally meant to use for left turns where there's no place to turn left. So it's a no-brainer to add a median, try and create a little visual friction, slow people down. The median itself, the county builds a lot of concrete medians, less maintenance. During the process of both the master plan and as our design went, we went to the public several times. Hopefully some of you made it. There was an overwhelming ask by the citizens for additional green space. So not only the median in the center is green, but we are adding additional green space on the outside. Throughout, sidewalk on both sides will be all brand new. One side will be wide enough to be considered a shared use trail for bikes and pedestrians walking. As you move south, this is the area I've always considered to be the biggest area of transformation for this project. This is an existing condition aerial for segment 5. I don't even know how long it's been in this. From right-of-way line to right-of-way line, it's all hard surface, asphalt and concrete. It's a kind of a free-for-all for we needed some help. What we're proposing, this is okay, sorry. What we are proposing is a lot of the same green space, but a lot of access management. We'll give individual properties their own access or shared access where they agreed to it to get to an access point that you can make left turns. We also have incorporated, this is a good picture of one of the new pedestrian crossings, and it will be signalized, so they will be able to press a button and stop traffic. There's at least 3, if not 4 of those going in throughout the corridor, but this is a major one in the area of the Boys and Girls Club in Mercy. And then from a street view perspective, this is the same area. We will be going from this to this. I have heard, I heard, the lady earlier talking about maintaining West Florissant. The county maintains our trail roads throughout the county within municipalities or unincorporated. We maintain the road. We maintain the asphalt, the curbs, the sidewalks, the striping, the signing. We can maintain all of that. The greenery and the greenery that's been agreed upon through countless meetings is something that is just beyond our capability to keep in a condition that will meet the goals that you need to, you know, to keep this corridor vibrant and pretty. And that is why we are proposing, or the proposal is out there to put together a TDD. That money can be spent to prop up city budgets. It can be spent for One West Florissant to create contracts for maintenance. And I have been involved in, I've been with the county for 27 years. I've been involved with at least the creation of 5 or 6 TDDs that developers propose when we make them do road improvements. And once the numbers get crunched, I think you will be shocked just what a minuscule tax increase this would be. It's, that's the best I can tell you. But I can tell you that the road will be maintained, the striping will be maintained, the curb, the sidewalk, the shared use path, the traffic signals will all be maintained by St. Louis County. And I just wanted to end my portion. If you recognize the rivers, you can see this is a map of St. Louis County. It's just an aerial from Google Earth with all of our arterial roads highlighted and their condition. Red is bad, orange is getting bad. We have over 300 miles of arterial roads beyond the 2 miles of West Florissant that we're discussing right now. And we are $60 million short annually to keep them in decent shape to be drivable. So that is all I have.
Thank you. Just to wrap up, wanted to share a little bit of information about what a transportation development district is. It's a political subdivision, the state of Missouri. It's a state by state statute. And it has the ability under state statute to fund, promote, plan, design, construct, improve, operate, and maintain a transportation project. And the very basic process for how a TDD is established is a petition is presented to the court. And that petition contains information stating what the geographic boundary is, what the scope of activity is. So what do you plan to use the money for? How would you fund the TDD? And TDDs, depending on how they are structured, can be funded through sales tax, real estate tax, or assessment tax. And it also identifies the first board of directors. The next step in the process is a public court hearing. And then depending on the structure of a TDD, there may be elections or there may not. It just depends on whether or not voters are written into a boundary or what type of funding mechanism is determined. TDDs are established on development sites often. And there's a lot more information at that website right there explaining what the details of it are. So West Florissant TDD, cost benefit analysis. We don't know if a TDD makes sense for West Florissant. So we submitted the working group that includes representatives from Ferguson, Delwood, St. Louis County, One West Florissant, and Health and Homes. We submitted a request for proposals, and that proposal needed to define, was asking a firm to determine what the boundaries, what two potential boundaries could be for a TDD, what the funding may be, what funding that could expense, what that could pay for. And the most critical part of the cost benefit analysis is how much of an impact would that have? What would the cost be to households, businesses, the municipalities, and other stakeholders? And what would the benefit be? Also taking into consideration the calendar year, bureaucratic considerations, civic considerations, suggestions for governance, and potentially if that cost benefit analysis says this could be a really good option to improve the corridor over time, what would the implementation look like? PGAV was interviewed by representatives of the working group, including representatives from Ferguson. They are a St. Louis-based planning agency that has 50 years of experience. They were also engaged in the West Florissant Consolidated Zoning and Land Use Agreement that Ferguson adopted in 2020. So they're very familiar with the community and the process. As a part of the TDD, if an analysis just to determine if a TDD would make sense for improving the corridor over time, then community engagement, feedback, and information would be a part of that process. Recently in the Post-Dispatch, there's this article from Jacob Barker that 20 cities in the Normandy School District are currently working to establish a TDD to maintain their sidewalks and other infrastructure. That's potentially a 20 municipality agreement right there. So the link to the full article is in the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank
Are
you.
there any questions? Councilwoman Lippe.
So the Transportation Development District, if this were to get on the table, go through the process that you just presented and fails, what does that mean for the project itself?
For the construction funding is identified. And Glenn, please feel free to, if there's anything more. But the long-term operations and maintenance, the hardscape, the curbs, the pavement, all of that falls under county jurisdiction. The enhancements, the lighting, benches, trash, cohesive coordinated branding across the corridor, the landscaping, all of that falls under, it could fall under the jurisdiction of a TDD across multiple municipalities, or it would fall under the your operations and maintenance budget currently. So general maintenance.
So what you're saying then is that if this didn't pass, if it didn't go through, if it wasn't approved, the hardscape would be there, but none of the greenery would be.
The greenery is a part of the construction, but the general maintenance of the landscaping and other enhancements would.
Kind of what gets under my skin is because I've gone to all these meetings since 2013. And I've, sat and talked, and in every single meeting, every rendering that was put out there for people to look at and make their comments and make their suggestions included this beautiful greenery background. So when you say, well, we usually use concrete, that's what we like to do because it's easy to maintain, but citizens wanted greenery, so now we got greenery, so now somebody's got to pay for it. you know, I was very upset about it because I felt like it was a bait and switch type of mentality. Every single rendering showed these beautiful streets. Of course people want that. Why wouldn't they want that? What should have been presented, and I think is unfair that it didn't, was the real look of the real money that was gonna complete the real project. There should have been two sets of renderings, one showing what the money actually paid for and what it would look like, and one showing what the pretty version is, and then how much that would cost. So basically what we've come to now is, thank God we got this this grant, because it's taken forever to get it, and it's, like you said, 5th time's a charm. But the greenery, honestly, the only way I can figure anybody could afford the maintenance of that, because of course we all want that. The citizens on West Florissant deserve every single bit of the beautification of West Florissant. But they don't deserve to have overgrown medians and things like that. So of course the TDD needs to go through. And, you know, I just would like to see, when this TDD is presented, that you are very clear on the numbers, on the different ways to do it. Like you said, an assessment tax, a property tax, a sales tax. And I will let people know, the sales tax is probably the most feasible one. And it would probably bring in the easiest to obtain the money to maintain. It would be much more fluid for the maintenance and the bills that have to be paid to do that type of thing. And I would also remind you that whether you realize or not, you're already paying additional taxes through sales tax in the business district of Ferguson, FSBD, and you're also doing that in the upper section of West Florissant in what they call segment 1 and 2, which is the Walmart and Sam's and Burger King and all of that area. So you're already paying into programs like this and don't know it. So the reason I bring that up is because I think the TDD is going to have to be the way to do this, to have what we want, because otherwise it's concrete jungle. And I think you're probably going to have to go with sales tax, and I think that the sales tax would be the less painful for the community using the area.
I agree with you. The sales tax, in my mind, does make the most sense. And as I mentioned in the presentation, I really do believe that it's going to be minuscule, the increase to.
Typically, it's like 0.1%, or
Yeah, 0.02
or something.
eighth of a cent, something. But as far as how the plan was presented to the public from the get-go, I just wanted to mention that in 2013-ish, the county passed what we called a complete streets ordinance. So I liken that to just kind of different levels. You have just plain old streets. My predecessors, you know, they were very car-centric. They didn't really think about anybody who wasn't in a car. We finally did get a complete streets ordinance passed in 2013-ish, maybe 2012, which takes all modes into account, biking, walking, transit. So from just a plain old street to a complete street, and then there's a great street. And what I would call a great street is a complete street with enhancements. So when the cities approach East West Gateway to take advantage of the Great Streets funding, that is what they were asking for. Otherwise, we'd be building a complete street, just something where we know everybody has a space, whether they're walking, biking, or driving.
So I guess the thing is, I don't, in all those meetings, I've never heard anyone break it down like you just did. So basically what you're saying is a complete street is one category. What was the next one before?
The base road
Right.
that my predecessors have been building for 80+ years just cares about cars getting around and doesn't care how fast they go. Complete streets just try and give everybody a space, no matter what their mode of transportation, And they're designed in a way that, they need to obey, not so much obey the law, but be conscious of other users. And then when you go beyond a complete streets, that's where the enhancements come in, like the greenery, banners, if you want banners, enhanced street lighting.
Raise grant, then you work with these other organizations to create the remaining amount needed for, what was it, 25.7 million. Are you saying that the Grays grant, I'm sorry, the Raise grant was based on rendering similar to what we saw because it was a Great Streets program? So the Great Streets program has to come up with the enhancements.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
definitely.
But what you're also saying tonight that I heard was that the money that we have currently is just streets, it's the curb, it's just the things that
No,
county is in charge of.
the money we have currently to build a project will build a great street. What the TDD is going to be structured to do is make sure that great street remains great.
Right, so I guess the thing is, when we were having these public hearings, and I've seen a lot of people in the audience that were in those meetings. Vern Mincher went to all of them as well. Miss Shirley went to all of them. I don't remember this conversation. And Laverne, tell me after the meeting if I'm wrong, but I don't think it was ever explained to the citizens when they were right there up in your face, so to speak, saying that this includes the greenery, but we don't have the money for the greenery, because when the last public hearing was held at the Delwood Community Center and the renderings were out there, that was the conversation I had with the people that represented the organization for quite a long time. We had a very long conversation about that. And that was the thing that I was most concerned about. These renderings were beautiful. We all deserve this. But the reality of maintaining that is a lot of man hours and a lot of money. And I didn't hear anybody talking about where that's coming from until tonight.
Thank you.
I understand.
Councilman Nick Passoff, and then we hear from Councilwoman Robinette.
Okay, I have a couple of quick questions. First of all, somebody here was asking about the project boundaries. Because one of you said something about Jennings. My impression was that it goes from Stein Road to a little bit south of Ferguson Avenue and doesn't go around where Westfall Plaza is over to Lucas and Hunt, correct?
That is correct. The question of Jennings came in. So the road right away itself is not in Jennings, but there are a couple of Jennings businesses fronting the improvements.
South of Ferguson
Yeah,
Avenue
south
on
of
the
Ferguson.
east
That's-
side of West
That's just where the
Florissant.
city
There's a-
boundaries.
So the stuff between the railroad tracks and Ferguson Avenue, well, the stuff right at Ferguson Avenue is Ferguson. So, okay, so it's basically Ferguson and Doe.
Yeah,
Okay. Now, getting on to the question I had, if this is a sales tax, it will be collected by the businesses in the TDD, correct?
yes,
Those businesses are chiefly businesses with a local focus. The people in the immediate area are patronizing them. We don't have destination businesses there. So the West Florissant corridor there, not only is it one of the, probably the lowest income area in Ferguson, it's one of the lowest income areas in the county. So we're talking about imposing a local tax on some of the poorest people in the county so that they can have a grassy median and trees by the side of the road, in essence.
well, there's a lot of safety benefits that come along with that. And we would not have gotten the raised grant without those enhancements, which is also providing for the new sidewalk on one side and the bike trail on the other side, which gets them off the road, which is huge. I do build bike lanes. If at all we can provide space off the road for bikes, I definitely will do that every time. So it's kind of a package deal.
So to be clear, you're saying no TDD, no Great Streets
No,
project?
No,
basically.
go ahead.
We're not proposing a TDD. We are proposing an analysis to see what impact it would have on the community. Would it raise the funds? Would it improve the corridor? Would it improve the environment? Would it make it safer? Or would it not? Would it cost, we're proposing an analysis to determine if this is the right route to operate and maintain and enhance and improve it over time.
That's all.
Councilwoman Robinette.
So I'm just restating this, Councilwoman Lipka, I think one of the things that you had said was that if the TDD is not passed, then we don't get the green space. Is that what she said?
I said what happens if we don't get the TDD.
Okay, okay, so the construction project itself, it has the green space as part of the construction, and it has the access management points, you know, the traffic calming measures and access management. So that would be delivered without a TDD, correct? Okay, so it's then if the TDD or whatever mechanism ends up being the best for, you know, community, if that is not passed, then that falls to, I mean, that's a tough area to maintain too, because it is so, I mean, there's so much traffic there anyway, so that would fall to the city to maintain, just because it's because it's within the city of Ferguson's area, even though, I mean, is that a county road or is that a?
It's a county road.
It's a county
Okay.
road.
So, yeah, it's just, I mean, I feel like we just heard a comment from a resident about a park that's one of our most popular parks that can't even be maintained. So, you know, the thought of having, you know, that long of a corridor of green space makes me a little itchy, like that it could be maintained. So I just wanted to clarify those points. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilman Williams.
The federal funding has a very specific designation for the Great Streets project. And the maintenance of city streets is the responsibility of the city.
There's
I-
Florissant.
Yes, West Florissant's a county road.
City manager.
Yeah, do you want to talk about the funding analysis since that was your? The cost breakdown assumption right now for maintaining the enhancements for the city of Ferguson was about $120,000 a year. That's an assumption on like the base cost. So if we want to enhance and improve it over time, or to do a really good job of coordinating across the corridor to create a really cohesive environment, you know, a TDD, an analysis could tell us if a TDD is a viable option.
Councilman Palmer.
Who currently maintains the current green space and trees and mulch along that corridor?
So, as I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of arterial roads in the county. Some run through municipalities, some are unincorporated. Even if there's nothing in the middle that's green, there's always some green on the outside. Most of the time, if there is a property owner that fronts the road, they will just kind of take care of it with their own green space because they want their place to look good. If there happens to be like a long section that doesn't have that type of property owner, and we will go through and mow the grass. You know, we can't have tall, wild stuff growing right next to the road. But our schedules, we would be lucky to be able to get to it 3 times a summer.
Right, so what you're saying is the current grass that is between the sidewalk and the street right now on both sides of West Florissant, St. Louis County already maintains?
Either that or the homeowner or business owner themselves do it to keep their property looking better than what we can do.
So you're not sure if St. Louis County does that, or that is
No.
their responsibility?
Yeah, it's different on every arterial road.
I believe I've seen St. Louis County maintaining that. Is there currently a TDD in this district to pay for that maintenance?
No.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Lippin, we're gonna wrap up.
Ms. Trust?
Sorry. Oh.
More.
So you said basically to kind of calm us down, me especially, that this was a request for an analysis tonight.
Yes.
So when you have a request for an analysis, exactly what are you requesting from us as a city council? What made you come to our city council meeting and do this presentation? Do you need approval from us? Do you need money from Ferguson? What is the actual, that's fine, I don't care.
So at the last
So it's not exactly $10,000, but our cap. Which?
It was at the budget meeting.
Oh, okay.
We didn't have enough people to pass it. Councilman Palmer.
One of the presenters mentioned that they've worked on maybe a handful of TDDs similar to this in the past. Is that correct?
You've worked on TVs.
Worked on?
Yes.
Oh. Yes.
Did all of those have a preliminary study such as this done?
They were all development driven. So the developer starts with a company like PGAP just to get their own possibilities of how they want to structure their financing. So
In any of those studies, was it ever recommended to not have a TDD?
not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a suggestion. East-West Gateway Council of Governments had a meeting on May the 29th, and they have some funding left over for implementation. And the person that basically handled that is Rachel. Is there any reason why that St. Louis County cannot call East-West Gateway Council of Governments and ask about funding for this analysis? So Ferguson and Delwood don't have to come up with X amount of dollars because they have extra funding. Also, County Executive Sam Page sits on the board two seats from me. So that funding is available. And I think we should, at least St. Louis County should call East-West Gateway and see if they have this funding. It's an implementation funding Rachel is over it and see if they can allocate some monies toward the analysis.
We can certainly ask.
There's
I
nothing wrong with asking. They
Yeah.
have the money. They have the money.
I think the main reason why a resolution and a conversation with the council was presented is because this is not a developer-driven TDD. If you have a single site, a single developer saying, I'm controlling all of this property, so I'll put a sales tax and have the customers pay for it. The difference here is that this is a community project. It impacts multiple jurisdictions. And so we really welcome this opportunity to present and this conversation and look forward to more.
I'm just proposing call East West Gateway Council of Governments. They have funding left over in the implementation. And they see if they can offset the cost of the analysis. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for listening to the presentation tonight. I appreciate what Maude and Glenn have shared with you. It's a big project, 23 million that's going to happen, as Glenn just mentioned. The group, both Ferguson representatives as well as Delwood representatives, are part of this team that have been working and talking about this. And Delwood has put in $10,000. And then I think the request is that Ferguson put in $10,000. And then Health and Homes has put in the balance to be able to engage this firm, PGAV, to do this analysis. And so everybody has, will have some skin in the game. The Great Rivers Greenway has already put in monies to be able to do other things with this overall project. And so I just wanted to make that clear that the request is that everybody have some skin in the game. There's 18.2 million from the federal government, transportation, over 5 million from the county, and just asking if everybody can have some skin in the game. All right, but thank you very much for your comment.
Thank you. The special presentation is now closed. We move to the manager's report.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to your new temporary home. I made a quick presentation that outlines some of the more important points of a resolution that you'll have later on for some fee changes within our department. There are a couple of things I want to note off the bat. The most up-to-date version of the bill was not included in your packet, but there was a printout of it laid in front of you. And the three sections that changed were section 7-123.b.b.1. And that changed the emergency call period from year to license year, just a specification. And then exhibit 123A, the map was changed that to make an actual KML file. So I was able to make shape files and KML files to give it actual boundaries. And then section 7-145.2.1, there was just some additional language that even if the owner is not an applicant, that we still need their proof of ID. And we can go into more detail, but I just wanted to give you those points right off the bat.
Can you send us an email tomorrow? Because I didn't get a chance to write it down and I was trying to find them as you were saying them and I couldn't keep up with you, so.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Yep. So this presentation is going to review the basics of the fee changes that the Community Development Department has proposed. If you want to go to the next slide. So to review the fees, costs, and expenses, we've combed through everything we possibly can at the moment. And in addition to the ordinance that was recently passed for review fees in a previous meeting, we also wanted to make some of our own updates in preparation of codifying the code and just coming up with more modern verbiage. Could you scroll to the next slide? In these changes, we also help to kind of streamline who does what and specify who does what and how to contact them. This was an infographic that we had previously published and is available in the office. Did you go to the, yes, thank you. So one of the first things that you'll see that we're changing is that we are removing the special verbiage for smaller structures and just simplifying it further into the code that anything over 120 square feet will need to be permitted and that it'll be processed the same as all of the other building permits and construction permits that we do. Next slide. So this goes along with the infographic that I showed earlier, that some more changes are just updates from saying Public Works Director to Community Development or Code Enforcement to Community Development, making sure everybody's using the same words. It's important to us that we also do that when we speak with people to make sure that everybody talks about the same thing as much as possible. We will be taking out the additional electrical fee schedule. It's being removed entirely, and there's a new fee structure that we'll go over later on. And then we're reestablishing this in a level 1, 2, 3 style of fee structures. And then we are also removing the exterior compliance certificates and the interior compliance certificates. We're removing it as it is a part of the occupancy inspections, and it can also be enforced year round.
Interior inspection.
Say that one more time.
Will that be imposing interior inspections on everything?
Yes,
Because currently we don't have interior inspections for every single type of thing.
correct.
Okay, and is that something that is imposed by your office or does that go to a vote of council? Because I would not be for that.
So it's actually in that bill that you guys are going to see later on. And this is going over all of those changes.
Councilwoman, let it get finished. Okay, keep going.
So this is an infographic that we had previously shared as well to kind of outline the generic common code violations and suggestions on how to fix them. This is just to show that we do enforce a varying amount of code, building codes year round and not just at inspection times. And if you want to go to the next page. So managing rentals as a municipality is something that we consider very important. We want to track home ownership and we want to increase owner-occupied homes. We also want to build relationships with property owners, whether that be a renter or a owner-occupied. We want to deter substandard living conditions, encourage fair housing, and track economic trends. And something that's important to note is that a lot of these changes are in line with our 2040 vision and the standards that we set forth for ourselves in the goals and their timelines. Next slide. This is a map that I plotted of all of our current rental licenses. So you can see that we have a significant amount. And we're currently at a 51.8% rental rate here in Ferguson. Next screen. How to manage our rentals. In the past, we have had regulations and incentives for property owners that own rental property to maintain higher standards of living. And that's something that we want to continue doing as well. We're also starting to encourage having monthly forums with not just renters, but landlords or organizations or businesses that have these types of properties. We want to continue to enforce the property maintenance standards on the exterior. And as you know, that we are following through with issuing citations. We want to associate each rental address with the registry that renews annually, and enforcing that the renewal and inspection requirements need to be done annually. Next screen.
You finished?
No.
Okay.
This was the proposed map that did not make it into the original packet that was sent out to you. But this was the proposed quadrants. I just went with quadrants because there's usually, four is a standard number, 4 seasons a year. It gives us more time to phase out the old information, phase in the new information, and spread out the inspections so we aren't overwhelmed at one point throughout the year. Next screen. So we've done some really thorough research, and it's taken us a long time to compile this information. We have a lot of complaints, we have a lot of inspections, we have a lot of first responder calls, and a lot of nuisance abatement that goes on with rental properties. On average, per complaint against a rental property, we spend about $27,780 a year. And to some people, that's an entire year's salary. With inspections, we spend about $238,492 on average a year. And that includes driving, manpower, office supplies. Then for first responder calls, it's estimated that we spend about $280,000 in nuisance calls. And what I am classifying as a nuisance call is something that is related to robbery, assault, property burglary, or domestic violence. And then in nuisance abatement, we spend about $38,000 on junk, trash, debris, and weeds. Next slide. Moving forward, we are proposing having an accredited housing provider certificate that renews annually and costs $160. Next slide. The items that are included in the accredited housing provider certificate program are background checks. This means that we are going to check the address for police calls, violations, property taxes, real estate taxes, zoning, and use. It's going to cover their inspections and making sure that the livable space has regular maintenance, upkeep, and is not a poor living condition for the resident. And then also making sure that there is an emergency service review, working with police and fire to make sure that there's insurance on file, there's Knox boxes if applicable, and that we have emergency contact information and maintenance contact information. This slide has a lot of information on it, but our hope is that the resolution that you have before you today, that we will pass this towards the end of the month. The reason we have this timeline is because rental licenses start renewing in November, and we want to keep up with that. But we also want to be able to provide a grace period for people to become informed about these changes. We also need time to update the digital forms, have forums so we can educate everybody, visit the neighborhood organizations, and figure out how we're going to divide each quarter to start renewing them in 2025. So some of the other nope, go, you're good. Some of the other changes that you'll see are related to occupancy. We are changing the verbiage to reflect that things are called a certificate of occupancy and clarifying that the process to obtain a certificate of occupancy includes occupancy inspections. And then adding some more verbiage to require owner information. And obtaining owner information is very important, especially when it comes to out-of-town owners, when we need to contact them for maintenance. Next slide. At this time, we do have some checklists that we hand out to citizens or real estate agents, anybody that comes in the door and asks for one. This goes along with their occupancy inspection. And right now, when you apply online, these are some documents that are issued to you. So that way you are set up for success and you know what we're looking for. Next slide. Our fee schedule, there are some changes on that. I want to make sure that Public Works fees stay the same. They are not changing their fees right now, and we do have a split in our duties, and that's outlined on the infographic that I shared earlier. And then our planning and zoning fees, it will outline when a permit is needed and what the fee will be for that. And building permits, we also outline the new organization, which helps us to simplify the processing, make it easier to code our programs, and makes it more inclusive and not so directed to each particular receptacle that you're installing in your house. Next slide. These are just some more graphics of some other items that we have to offer online and in the office. The community development fee on the left, that list is actually what we are proposing. And it's hard to read here, so there's a different version of it for you. But it does outline the different levels of alterations and the minimum cost for each. And then what is getting issued to applicants when they apply for permits right now are usually one of these 4 documents, which guides you through what we need from you, what the process is, and gives some generic drawings for you to provide to us. Next slide. And then the last thing that you'll see in this bill is going to be the rental licenses, and that has been removed entirely. And that is because we want to do the accredited housing provider certificate instead. And then that is the end of the presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Let me make this very simple. We'll start with Councilwoman Noor and work our way around. That's easier. Councilwoman Noor.
No,
Put your mic on.
It's not on. You gotta push the button on top and the little green light comes on.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Rachel, for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Just 2 quick questions. So in many spaces in the packet, but I'll go with section 7-63, enforcement official inspectors. So you want to remove Director of Public Works and write Community Development Director or their authorized representative. Should we, should it be stated city manager instead of or their authorized representative? I mean, just thinking, what if we don't have a planning director? I mean, who's going to make a decision? You know, so maybe it should go directly to the city manager at that point.
It can be,
Just a
but I
suggestion.
think you can interpret it a few different ways. That an authorized person could be one of the community development liaisons who is enforcing the code every day. It could be one of the inspectors who is only going out there upon application, or it could be the city manager who's responding to a complaint.
Right, just a suggestion. That way we know who the next person in line is, you know, and there's no confusion.
Yeah.
The next question you kind of touched on, I was going to ask regarding the current rental license map. Does the city confirm that current rental license holders taxes are current. But I think, you know, you went through that when you went over the
I'm
fee.
not up, I'm not 100% positive on how it's been processed in the past since it wasn't handled by my department. I do think that checking their real estate taxes was part of their checklist.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
My question becomes on that is, are all the inspectors, are they certified? Are they, are they being certified? Are they certified? Does the community development director hold those certifications?
Mhm. And one of our inspectors, Wayne Grenard, he's an architect, and John Coolman is a certified property maintenance inspector. Correct.
Go there. Councilman Palmer. Councilman Cassoff.
I want to start with a point of information. Which council member introduced this bill?
We haven't gotten
Me.
that yet. She says.
Well, it's on the agenda for first reading. Somebody on council has to have introduced it.
You can introduce it as council as a whole.
I had a conversation with a legislator about that practice. And what they said to me is that in all their years as a legislator, bills are introduced by particular members of the body who sponsor them. And that offers transparency in terms of who is advocating for something. And I want to point out, this is a 26-page bill that makes wholesale changes to significant things in our city. This is the first I'm seeing it tonight. When we proposed several bills earlier this year that changed one sentence in the city code, we got objections from staff that we didn't discuss it with them and have a first, and we had to have a work session to change one sentence. And so I have a 26-page bill here tonight that I've never seen. It's a great presentation, but it seems like making such a significant change to our housing ordinances would have been something that we would have had a discussion about rather than coming to council with a presentation and a bill. And that troubles me. Getting into some specifics. First of all, the accredited housing provider certificate that's $160. Is that per property or per owner?
It is per individual dwelling unit space.
So each address would have to pay $160 per year.
Correct.
So we're more than tripling the landlord license fee, bottom line deal.
Please be quiet in the audience, please.
They did something similar in Bell Fountain Neighbors recently, and we know what's happening with that. So as somebody who has a duty to the citizens of Ferguson to avoid us getting sued, that concerns me. But as a landlord and one of at least 3 landlords on this council, again, it troubles me that there was no discussion. We just got a 26-page bill that changes an entire scheme. I honestly believe that Well, I'm just going to speak for myself. First of all, I really wish that we would, rather than having everything introduced by council members present, that we would start following the practice of other legislatures and have bills with sponsors and co-sponsors. And second of all, that we would follow the practice of every legislature that I've ever had any contact with, from the United States Congress down to local legislatures, and that is that legislation may be initiated by staff who see a need for change in the law. I get that. You work with the laws every day. You see there's a problem with the law and you believe the laws need to be changed. But changing the law isn't a staff matter. It's a legislative matter. Just like I can't come into, we have something in the charter that says I can't come into your office and direct you because you're the executive branch, we're the legislative branch. That respect goes both ways, and I don't see that here tonight. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Robinette.
Can you hear me now? Okay. So the presentation that you gave, again, it's very high level, and it sounds to me like you're trying to make the process easier for both the city and, for these things that have gotten very complex. And I applaud that, way of thinking. We do have we have a hodgepodge of all kinds of things in our code currently. One of my thoughts initially, I mean, we did get this in our packet, what, Thursday or Friday or something, or Tuesday, it was last week. When I first read through it, was the 26 pages we're discussing seemed like a very disjointed way to attack, like specific problems. Like I can't look at what you put into the presentation and say, oh yeah, this is here. I mean, like it's not a one for one. It's not like this is the problem I'm trying to solve and this is how we're going to do it with the code change. It got so disjointed, and I thought maybe like my brain turned off or something. Like I honestly questioned my husband, like, am I making sense right now? It was so complex that I thought, who as a code inspector could interpret this going forward? It seemed to muddy the waters further rather than simplify. And to be quite honest, I thought based on the last discussion we had that we were just going to get a fee structure change. I thought that's what came out of the work session that we had talked about. And I know you said you had other changes to make. I didn't realize it was all going to be in one, but like these need to be walked through with council, because the qualifications for a certificate for the accredited housing provider certificate, section B says less than 3 emergency service calls per particular individual dwelling per calendar year. That cannot be like that. Like the ACLU has a button that you can click that says like, let us know when this happens, because it's punitive to domestic violence victims and other, and there are communities that are using that to get rid of tenants. And we would rather work that through our community policing efforts as opposed to keeping out tenants or having tenants being told by their landlord, don't ever call 911 or I'll remove you. So, I just think that there are things that we should go through more than anything to really define what we're trying to address, and then to make sure that we're making the right changes. Because if in the event this had to be redone, I don't even know how someone would start. I don't know how this could be implemented, and it has nothing to do with the amount of effort or the work that you put into it. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying as a council member trying to read this and figure out how we're gonna put this into, you know, like how this bill becomes part of what we do, I don't know how that's gonna happen. And I go back to, we have a lot of things in place that we're just not utilizing as far as code inspection and law enforcement. And, you know, my hope is that as the police officers fill up, that we actually are able to focus some of their attention on, you know, nuisance properties, or, you know, if there are problem tenants that we're working with the police there. I don't think you can do it through what you're trying to present here. That's just my 2 cents. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Lipton.
So, first of all, I mean, everything that's here, obviously you've spent hours and hours and hours. So I appreciate the work. But I have to agree with Councilwoman Robinette. I actually spoke with Councilman Palmer earlier this week, and I said, you know, I started reading through this. And about halfway through, I was just like, I don't understand anymore. I was literally having brain freeze, and I didn't even have a husband like Larry Robinette who has an idea. My husband's in finance. And I'm like, hey, look at this. He's like, no, no. So I'm actually really happy she said that, because I was feeling very inept on my own account, but I realize now I'm in good company. So I do want I want a word for word. So like, I want to know, okay, I am Rachel St. Pierre. I've come here. I found this problem, and this problem is right here in the ordinance, and this is how I'm going to fix it. And here's what I've got right here. I need the arrows to go to each other. Okay. Because I'm not saying I won't agree with everything you're saying. Like, initially, I don't like interior inspections, but as I'm reading through this, I'm not against it. I just don't like it. But I want to hear why. You know, I want to hear why. You can convince me probably. But the other thing that I'm concerned about is, like, when I'm looking at your presentation and you're talking about the checklist that you have out there, who's I mean, like, I know the landlord should be doing all of this, but it's the tenant that comes to the city hall to get it, right?
Right now, yes.
Okay, so I used to have a rental property, and, you know, and I've rented in this community as well. But the thing about it is, if these things are going to be imposed on the landlord to demand a better quality living experience for the tenants, why does the tenant have to be involved at all?
They don't in the future.
Okay, good to hear. And the next question I have is, if we have landlords that are out of state, 60 miles away, you know, are we?
It's supposed to be.
Okay, whatever the case may be. Thank you for the correction.
But it says 60 here, but it was agreed for 25.
Okay, but, you know, we have these people who are not in the area. We will try to get numbers. We all know how easy it is to change a phone number. When these out of state, out of town, out of area landlords don't do their part, how is that going to affect the tenant? Are we kicking the tenant out? Are we evicting them because the house no longer matches? You know, those are things I want to know. And, you know, quite honestly, I don't like being a 57, 57% rental community.
51.8.
Okay, I don't, you know, obviously we don't like being a 51%, which is why this council and the previous council had FNIP get reestablished. That is why the property restoration program was designed in our council lifetime. You know, these are all ways that we as a community and a council are trying to address home ownership. This is good. It's very aggressive. And I would almost say it's a deterrent to be a landlord or have rental properties. I mean, it sounds to me like I don't know who's getting the benefit out of this. I mean, we're going to be tougher on landlords, but the rules are going to be so stringent that nobody wants to be a landlord in this community. It's too expensive. It's too hard. There's too many inspections and so forth. And then are we then taking in results, are we taking away living opportunities for people that we currently have in our community? That's why I would like more information.
Councilman Williams.
Testing. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's every man's God-given right. And sometimes government goes too far and takes those rights away from them. So I understand what you're trying to do to make it more simpler, but I think you're making it complex and it's too expensive. When I first got to St. Louis, I had to get an occupancy permit when I worked for Boeing. That was the first time I heard of that. To me, that's a tax. Other places in the country don't do that. You just move in. Nobody came to inspect the apartment. I just paid the fee. So it's a lot that I don't know, but I just think we need to be careful constructing rules and policies on people and not infringing on life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
I'd just like to share. We have paid a firm $100,000 to work with planning and zoning and look at our ordinances. Why are we not talking to these people? This is what I'm not understanding. We have hired somebody to look at our zoning and our ordinances and work with planning and zoning, but we have not called that firm back to do its work, to hold the town halls, to hear from the people. So we just threw that money away. Well, we haven't called them back to do their job. We haven't called them back to do their job. And this was part of their job because they were going to work with planning and zoning. Yes, well, just before Elliot left here, we hired them to start looking at planning and zoning, the ordinances, the zoning of the city. And when he left, everything stopped. The money, I don't know if we could recoup our money. Can we call them to come in and do their job? I mean.
And who's to say they won't sit down with all of the things that Rachel's done and say, yeah, you're on the right path?
But if they have not been contacted, to come and do the job that we have hired them to do. This is the only thing I'm looking at. I think I should say, stop right there. I should stop right there because it behooves me that, let me leave it alone.
That it's money spent that needs to be used properly, right?
We just got it. I mean, we just received.
No, I'm saying the original one that I got, I saw Mike 2 days ago. And I was reading this and I was totally confused. No, you're right, maybe I should have called, but then coming here tonight, we have a new version of it, so even what I read wasn't correct. So, you know, there's a lot more information in the secondary version. But my apologies, yeah, I probably should have called you, but I just gave up on it, thought I'd wait until the meeting.
I'm saying that we have hired a firm that
Right.
will come in and work.
They're shooting down our whole presentation tonight. Love it. Rachel, they're all shooting it down. He went to ensure.
It was Zoom.
Oh, he back again? Mhm.
Madam Mayor, I have a motion.
You don't have fun? Mr. Castle and Mr. Williams, he's still on the dime. And we can't hold personal conversation.
Madam Mayor, I have a motion.
Okay,
I'd like to move to remove Bill 7282 from the first reading agenda this evening.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
Are there any questions?
So if we're removing the bill from the first reading, is the intention to have more time to work with Rachel on this?
Yeah, we can discuss the direction we're going to move in the future. It's premature to have a bill up for consideration at this point.
Well, I would also put out there that, you know, if you go through Rachel's presentation, she has, or the back, like, find it, the rollout page, she has very specific reasons why she had it on tonight's agenda and this month's agenda. So if we need more time with this, or we also need to address Mayor Jones's request to reach out to the company that we did hire and find out if they can get on track. I would like to, I guess my process would be, as I'm talking out loud and thinking out loud, that I think we honor Mayor Jones's request to reach out to that company and find out where we stand with them, so that we can then have them work with Rachel, because they may very well say, yep, Rachel, you're on the right path, keep going. And if they say, Rachel, let's tweak this, let's tweak that, that conversation would be very beneficial for us going forward. But I do think we need to make this a high urgent priority, because I think she has a very, very good point as to why her rollout is designed the way it is. And in all efforts, if possible, I would like to try and work with her on the rollout.
Any other question? It's been properly moved and second. I call for the question. If no question, Clerk Pittman, could you give us a roll call vote, please?
Aye.
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 The motion carries that bill number 7282 be removed from the agenda. We did not specify indefinitely or what, but however, the motion was to remove it from the agenda for tonight. Let's move on. The city manager.
I'm gonna,
I think the contact.
Right, Hauser
We
Levine
need
is
to
the firm,
contact
right?
that firm that we hired.
Right, Hauser Levine.
I agree with Mayor Jones. I think we need to contact that firm. I also think there needs to be a conversation with council that hasn't happened yet. And I think we can start that by email. And if we need to have a work session, that's fine. But we've got a lot to discuss here.
And the chairperson of Planning and Zoning, Adrian Shropshire, he has all the information as to the firm that we contacted, and I'm thinking Clerk Pittman can find it also too. Okay. We move to the public hearing, fiscal year 2024-25 budget. City manager. Councilwoman, Robert, Lipka.
So I did request from Dave, and I just wanted to let you know as well, sir, that for me, I would like, you sent the budget to us in the council packet, and it was just the whole thing again. What I'd like, and I asked him if he could provide for us, is where we made our changes, and directly, not the whole budget. Show me where, just the sections that we had the changes in, and then also what amount of money we actually saved with those changes. I mean, did we save a lot? Did we save a little? Did we make a difference? Did it? Well, I want a new breakdown and new total sheet.
I can address it, if that's all right. I already made all the changes. I told Councilwoman Lipka, I'm more than happy to email you guys a listing of all the changes. But what I did when I made the changes, so we know in the future, in the B2s, I put in the descriptions the amount that we cut out in red. So this was cut in 2025's budget. So moving forward, if the same staff's not in place, they can know what was budgeted for 24, 23, and we can go that route. I just thought it'd be easier for record keeping moving forward. So.
Thanks.
City manager, we still looking forward to you to provide information. about the budget.
Right now, currently,
We in a public hearing.
okay, does anybody have a specific question? I will provide Ms. Lipka and Rusty Council with the information that she's requested.
Any other questions from the council about the budget? Clerk Pittman, do we have any residents sign up for the public comment for the public hearing of the budget?
Yes, first is Deborah Moore.
Okay, it's been a few years since I've attended anything.
Pull the mic down.
Huh? Pull your microphone.
Oh,
There we go.
I don't know if you heard me, but anyway, I said it's been a few years. And I think I did tell you I had to step away for a while. Anyway, I know you're probably further ahead on your budget process, but I do just have some little quick questions. The reason for my questions, basically, we had that massive hailstorm in April, did damage to my property, beat the hell out of my car. I didn't realize I had roof and gutter and everything else issues until my insurance company came out. So I was just thinking and wondering, because I've been gone for a while, I'm asking, who's our insurance carrier? Did we, meaning Ferguson, did we have any damage to any of our properties? And if we did we file a claim on anything? And if we did, how much of that portion of our insurance that we're responsible for? Like, I have a deductible, of course, and, and it's now, all my deductibles are included because I do a budget on every aspect in my home. I'm just trying to find out, did we include that in our budget for 2025 if we filed any type of claims? The other issue is something that I read a few weeks back, and it was very disturbing article to me about some lawsuits. I said to myself, here we go again. These are the questions that I asked years ago, and I guess now I'm asking again after I read those articles. And then today I heard something else, and my mind, of course, is still clicking. Okay, our portion of whatever these lawsuits are, did we or have we or were we thinking of putting those dollar amounts in our budget? Hopefully, whatever our portion is, we're allocating that amount in each year's budget. And then I've been waiting for years for someone to tell me what our credit rating is. Just like I have to maintain a credit, I don't buy anything on credit, so, everything mine is paid for, but we still have to go after loans for everything. What is our credit rating? How does that affect our budget? And talking to city manager, how is that affecting our budget? Are we paying a higher interest rate, so to speak? You understand what I'm saying? So, that was it for me.
Yes. So
I'm not
currently-
singing tonight, so.
Yes, ma'am. So currently, we're in the Moody's process right now, and they're basing it more off the consent decree than our actual budget and the money that we have currently. We are stable right now with Moody's. As far as
What does stable mean?
we were trash. We were basically, and we are out of that. So we are stable, and then we can go up from there. So, if you want, I can email you exactly where we're at and the next steps, and or I can put it on our website. And then
Yeah,
that way.
put it on the website,
we'll do
that way, in case someone else.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, and as far as the hail damage and that, we did make some claims. And that's already in the process. And that is through MOPERM. So we've had some roof damage, and we also had some car damage. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now, what did you say the name of the insurance company?
MOPERM.
MO.
MOPERM, MOPERM, I believe it is.
So
That's one of our many carriers. that we
So
have.
are they gonna cover the lawsuits? Who's the insurance
Yes,
carrier for the
yes,
lawsuits?
ma'am. Right now, they currently are providing the lawyers and as well for that.
Okay, but
But also,
our responsibility, the portion that we're responsible for, I need to make sure, and I'm saying I need to, I want to make sure that we are covered
yes, ma'am.
when it's time for payout, that money is already in our budgets, that we're
Yes, ma'am.
not scrounging or robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak.
Yes, ma'am. It is in our budget. That is in their insurance cost through our carriers.
Right, no different than your home or your personal.
Like
You are
an umbrella
responsible for
insurance,
Whatever that, right,
kind of like an umbrella insurance.
right,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. All right.
And then also, you guys hear one side of the story on the lawsuits. Let's let it play out as well.
Okay, just disturbing.
Yes, ma'am.
yes.
Clarifying comment. As far as the insurance goes for the hail damage, that is only for city property and vehicles, not for any.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, I
Yes,
just
ma'am.
wanted, I didn't want people to hear that that's covered in the budget and
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So like, we don't have typical siding like everybody else. Most of our buildings are brick, so we don't have to worry about that. Our roofs and our vehicles really took a beating, some of the roofs and some of the vehicles. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
But those deductibles are included in our insurance costs that are in the budget line.
Next. Donna Moore? Hello.
Hello. I just got some general questions. I was reading the article. The question I have is, how many, current employees we have per department in Ferguson? Like, number of employees per department? And my second question is, how much money do we actually have in our reserve account?
Okay. So I would mess it all up if I went to every department. I don't have that in front of me. But I believe we're about 107, correct? Or, but well, right now it might be up because of part-time, with the parks. So I believe our number is higher. And that's what we've. Yeah, and that's what we budget for. But currently we are down on staff in some of the areas.
Okay. So base at 135 is what I heard.
Yes.
Secondly is, how much do we have in our reserve account?
So right now, we're about 14, 15 million.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Anyone else?
I do.
Neil Norman? Mr. Norman left.
He left?
Yeah. Oh, she left. Him and his wife. Okay. Shirley Emerson is the last.
Good evening again, council. My question has to do with the whereabouts of the $40,000 that was initially set aside in 2022 by the Economic Development Sales Commission. And it was to go to Forestwood Neighborhood Association in pursuit of historic designation in Northland Hills. I'm asking now, is there a comparable amount that has been included in the fiscal 2024, 2025 budget? And is it designated specifically to go to Forestwood CDC for the same purpose? Also, if it is there, how soon could we start that process? Also, I'd like to know what is the current balance in Ferguson's American Rescue Plan funds? Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't have the exact figure left on me right now for what's in reserves, or I mean, not reserves, but what's in an American Rescue Plan. I can get that and we can put it on the webpage. With the hearing that everybody wants to have, the money was already allocated to FNIP. FNIP, if people have a problem, they need to go address FNIP. We do have $200-something thousand that is going to be going for public safety, which could be used on our speed humps and anywhere else in the roads. As far as the money for Historical Society, that was being worked on with you and Elliot. There was nothing in the budget that I could find that said this was earmarked for Ferguson or Forestwood. I've talked to you a couple times and said, if you can give me proof. I know we did put some money in EST for potential historic landmarks, and maybe Rachel can speak on that a little bit, but I could not find anything that said $40,000 or whatever figure for Forestwood to go historic. And then we've also had conversations where I've asked you, does everybody in the neighborhood want to do this? So
Well, that's-
I mean, those type of questions also need to be answered. And then also, are people going to want to do what rules are you going to have? I mean, all that has to be also answered.
And that's why we wanted to move forward. We wanted to have that public meeting with the residents that would be affected by this to find out for sure. But we wanted to be able to explain and bring in the necessary people to explain the whole process to the entire residential community that would be affected so that we could determine if indeed they wanted to go forward. The people in our neighborhood organization had decided to go forward, but that's why we wanted to move forward to see. I shared something that Elliot had shared with me, when it was a sheet
received it.
from the economic development. I can send it back to you again.
So,
And it had $40,000 on there.
but
and
I
it-
did not see that in any approved budget, is what I'm saying.
Uh,
They may have talked to you about it. That doesn't mean it was approved during the budget. And that's what I was going off of when I looked at the budget. That's why I said if you had any more documentation, I would love to see it, because even still, we usually don't roll things over. And that would have to be still council's decision on whether or not that $40,000 is there earmarked for Forest Wood, to go historic.
Mhm. Okay, did you ever have a conversation with Elliot?
I did have a conversation with Ali. He said he did speak of it, but that was it.
Mhm.
That it did not go in front of council.
No, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Emerson. Anyone else? That's it? If we in the public hearing, you can
Okay.
ask a
I have
question.
just a follow-up and a question. So just for clarity, so Chief, you just stated that there's $200,000 from the ARPA funds for the public safety, for the speed humps, maybe not for, all the money won't be used for speed humps, but for public safety, right?
Yes, ma'am.
The money that we're gonna utilize for the speed humps is coming from the $200,000 from the ARPA fund.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. And
So-
that's one of the reasons I suggested that, is because that money's sitting there and we can get it a lot done, because, I mean, everybody last meeting was talking about speed, and this would be the quickest and fastest way to get that done. Now, also, I forgot to mention that we are doing a lot of asphalt work, that'll be coming up this fall. And I believe that's, $2 million, I believe, or 2 million? Yeah, 2 million, roughly around $2 million. And that is also ARPA funds.
Right, so just going back to that 200,000, so that ARPA money was sent here from the federal government to help our community, right? To make things better, safer, healthier, however, which goes to my point regarding the speed humps being needed near our parks. Now, it's been explained to me that the data from the Jamar is going to drive the speed hump location. And I'm fine with that to a degree, but because the money from ARPA is used to purchase the speed humps, I really hope that we can agree that we need to place speed humps near our parks. And because that's where that funding is coming from. So whether or not the data proves that you need a speed hump near a park, or if it proves you need a speed hump near a school, I'm hoping that we can place speed humps near our parks, just like we're gonna do for our school, whether or not the data proves that or not. That's just a point that I want to make because of where the funding is coming from.
Yes, ma'am. So my understanding is the traffic commission will be presenting Ms. Lipka where the speed humps will go. And then once that comes about, then we will have an open discussion. Is that correct? And then from there, we could talk about how many on each street and so on. Or we can say, I want 150, John, and go out for an RFP. But we do need to have the streets designated. So we are not saying we have 150, now what are the streets?
No, I agree.
I believe Mr. Kassoff and myself, he brought that point up to me, and it was a very good point.
No, and I don't disagree. I'm just making a point that we're talking about our parks, just like when we talk about our schools. You know, it's our parks, our schools. It's not just random streets. I hope that makes sense.
Well, I mean, we're
There's
not just
nothing
putting them on
random.
random streets, so we are putting them on the main thoroughfares for sure. Like a Frost, a January, a Suburban, a Brotherton. Those are main traveled streets, and I would imagine those would be Forestwood, Highmont. Those would be some of the first streets that I would imagine. So there's just not like let's pick a street. You know,
Right.
these are gonna be more traveled streets, and then we can go from there.
Oh, and
But obviously, the Jamar device and the traffic commission will kind of help guide us.
Right, and again, I don't disagree, but again, we're talking about our parks.
Yes, ma'am.
And we all know who goes to the parks,
Yes,
our
ma'am.
children, right? And we want to do our best to keep them safe. Again, why the money was sent here to our community. So the second
Yeah.
point I want to just make, well, it's not really a point, but I want to ask a question to our neighbor's question regarding the claims, the roof damage, the cars. Since that was mentioned, I don't know if we received an email or not, just explaining that there was damage and, you know, where was this damage, to what cars, to what roofs? That's kind of new to me. Just a follow-up to that would be,
Yes, ma'am. I will send council an email if I want.
thank you.
Thank you.
Can we have Mike
Councilman
Manning?
Palmer, Councilwoman Robinette, and Councilwoman Lipton.
And I just wanted to bring some insight to this big ARPA discussion everybody keeps talking about, acting like they're in the dark. Chief Hampton did a presentation on ARPA during budget. And it was widely unanimously voted on by the council minus 2 people. It was a very brief presentation. It seemed to hit all the needs of the community. If I remember correctly, it was roads, about $2.5 million or $3 million. 200,000 or 300,000 for traffic safety, basically speed bumps or other devices to slow people down. Home demolition, business development, housing development, and the police department remodel for the firing range. Was that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Thank you.
Councilwoman, Robinette.
Just a point about the speed bumps or humps or whatever we're calling. So Councilwoman Noah, I hear you about parks, but just because there is a park doesn't mean there needs to be a speed bump in front of a park. One of the parks you mentioned in an email thread has a 90-degree turn. So I don't know what a speed bump is going to do on a 90-degree turn in front of that. The other one has a pretty substantial turn as well. I don't, like, we just can't put the, saying it's a park doesn't mean that that's where a speed hump should go. We do need to look at the data. We need to spend our taxpayers' money appropriately. I realize these are government funds, but we still need to, you know, we need to spend it appropriately, and we need to hit the areas where they're most in need rather than to satisfy 1 or 2 residents that think it's a problem in front of a 90-degree turn. So that's.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lipton.
So, you know, basically, as far as the speed humps and the ARPA money goes, this is a conversation we were going to have even without ARPA money. We were going to ask for it to be put in the budget before the ARPA money came along. This is something that has been going on for a very long time. Anybody who's lived in some of these streets that they've seen deaths on, this has been happening for a while. So the fact that we have ARPA dollars to boost this project is a very good thing. But we can't waste the ARPA dollars, which is, again, why the Jamar system was purchased, which went through a whole lot of research. We found it. Then we had to go through a whole lot of conversation of who puts it up, who takes it down, who monitors the data, and that kind of thing. We finally got through all of that. So the intention of the Jamar is to take random, as the word you chose to use, out of the conversation and make it a very determined, specific, intentional research that will be able to allow us to evaluate the most effective locations to save the most possible lives. So I totally agree that if there is a problem in front of a park and we have shown through the data that it is necessary, then absolutely. But if the data shows that it isn't, I will not stand behind a decision to put a speed bump where it's not needed, taking it away from where it is needed and possibly saving somebody's life. Just real clear on that, okay? As far as our process, we have been given a list of speed bump locations from Chief Hampton that he would like us to consider. I've taken the consideration of comments that other council members have made and community members have made. And we are going to sit down look at all of these things, compare it to the data with Jamar, evaluate the list that was given to us and say, okay, yes, this is phase one, this is a phase two, this is a phase three, this isn't necessary, that kind of thing. And it's going to be, once the work is done, then a presentation will be put together, and that is when it will be brought to council, and we will include Chief Hampton and the city staff in those conversations so that when the presentation is brought to council, it has gone through a lot of sets of eyes that know what they're looking at and can give the best advice on that presentation as possible. But up until then, that is the work that has to be done, and that's what we're working on now.
Any other questions, any other comments from the council? If not,
I'm sorry?
Where is the budget dollar amount for, I don't, just where in the budget can I find how much you're allocating to repair the sidewalks in all of Ferguson, all of Ferguson? The reason I'm asking, a lot of handicapped, elderly, disabled, wherever you want to call it, that walk.
Yes, ma'am.
And they are having problems. I just need to know where this money is allocated. When is this project in the 2024, 25 budget or in the
So
25?
my understanding on this, we did not allocate anything but maybe $5,000, and that's for if we actually break the, by accident, us as Public Works breaks the sidewalk or damage the sidewalk. Through FNIP, you can apply for a loan, which would help you with your sidewalk. The sidewalk, I believe, is the owner's responsibility, and not the city's.
Is that a state law or is that a Ferguson?
Well, yeah, it's a state law. I'm not real sure. I will look it up though, and I will have an answer for next council meeting, or I can get your number and I can call you.
The attorney.
Oh, or I can ask my attorney. Which one? This one?
So, it's just, it's common, it's property. That, property. But the actual sidewalk property is common property.
Common property law is state law.
Yes, in the state of Missouri, yeah.
Well, one other thing though, is if you have any utility company that does work by your sidewalk and it is damaged, please let us know because we will help enforce that being fixed through the utility company.
Well, I don't have any, but
Yeah.
all of Ferguson.
Yes, ma'am.
That's fine.
Yes, ma'am.
What's our ordinance?
I'm sorry.
What is the ordinance? Ferguson? What does it state about the sidewalk?
I
Just
don't know if we
curious.
have an ordinance on sidewalks.
I think there is something in there.
I can look up and see what,
The last time this came up, Chief Hampton, it's actually come up a few times because Mayor Jones and I both wanted an increase in the sidewalk program a couple years back in the budget. But in the ordinance, it does state that it's the owner's
Well,
property.
just for clarity, just since we're here and it's being brought, I mean. this
yes,
is
ma'am.
what-
I will get the ordinance if there's an ordinance and I will send it out to everyone and put it on the
Okay.
webpage.
Thank you.
any other questions, any other comments? Hear none. The public comment section is closed on the budget. We move to our consent agenda. City council meeting minutes, the regular meeting for May 28. I'm requesting a motion in a second to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. The regular meeting minutes are approved. We have minutes from the board commission meeting minutes from the CRB for 5/6. I'm requesting a motion and a second to receive and file the minutes.
So moved.
Second, Quita Noah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, the minutes will be received and filed. We don't have any appointments, requests, proclamations. We move to resolution. We have resolution number 2024-24. Without objection, we're introduced by council members present. Hear none, Attorney Carey, could you please read the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2024-24, a resolution selecting a contractor for the construction of a concrete slab for a soccer mini pitch located at 11 Burdale Court, awarding the contract to said contractor and authorizing the city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city.
City Manager Hampton, could you please explain?
Yes, ma'am, Mayor and Council. At this time, I'd like to bring Joseph Seastrom up. He is the Public Works, our main Parks Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This resolution is for the concrete pad to fulfill our part of the grant that we got with St. Louis City SC for the soccer mini pitch that will be located at Plaza 501. I'll happily answer any questions.
Councilman Palmer.
Does the city already own all of the real estate that this is situated on?
Yes.
And are there any structures on it now?
No.
So this is ready for construction relatively soon?
Yes, hopefully as soon as possible. It's at 6 Burdale Court.
And when is the pitch anticipated to be constructed?
They would like to install it next month, so that's why.
Oh, soon. And is there a plan for the demolition of the houses on Burdale that we do currently own? Or suburban?
The only structures that are left, we do not currently own yet.
Okay, so we're still working on those remaining few.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe it's the two houses on Burdale and on Suburban, correct?
Yeah, there's
Just
4
two houses.
properties that we do not own currently.
Councilwoman Lipka.
So, Mr. Seastrom, could you remind us or, help me remember, what was the grant amount for, the dollar amount?
I don't know the exact total. It's all the work that goes into, they're installing the pitch, concreting, putting it into the concrete. Our only restriction with the grant is that we'd have the concrete ready to go. So when their team comes in, they're going across the country installing these all over. It's from
Right.
US Soccer. So the concrete pad's ready to go. So they can come in, drill it, anchor it into concrete. So it's whatever costs their general contractors incurs putting it up.
Okay, so, the other thing I was gonna ask is, you can talk to me about softball all day long. Dave and I work really hard to get a grant for the softball fields and everything else. I'm all good about that. What the heck does this pitch do? I don't understand soccer. What is? What?
I'm the soccer guy.
I want to hear what, I coached soccer. It was a bad situation. They didn't, but did it one year. How do you play soccer on concrete? Can you tell me what's going on here?
Well, it's actually, we're just laying a concrete. It'll be a rubberized surface, kind of like a sport court. So instead of grass, it's super soft, kind of like what our playgrounds are made of. It's soft rubber. So the goal of it is basically for urban soccer. So you can't make it like Forest Wood, you're going to go play on the grass. But this will be located downtown. So concert series or farmers market kids can go play soccer. And the goal with the US Soccer Foundation is so those kids start playing soccer there, and then they're going to upgrade to, I'll join the league that's over at Forest Wood and start playing. And I'm going to go to city SC games. So it's to introduce kids to soccer that may have never had a chance to play it.
So it's a mini field, a mini version?
Yes, it's a small soccer field. It's on rubberized surfacing. The nets are made of chains, so they can't break. There's not much maintenance to it. It's all enclosed in with about 4-foot walls, 6 foot on the goal side. So yeah, it's just a contained pitch so they can play, and it's less upkeep than having to mow the grass or that kind of stuff.
Well, when you said pitch, you were teasing me because I'm thinking softball. But anyway, the other thing I just want to let the community know, we had multiple bids for this. All of the bids were fairly high, but it was really nice to see that the bid that we liked was from a Ferguson business. So one of the things that I like to see as a council member is that when we put things out to bid, it's really awesome when we are supporting our own community and our own businesses. So, yay.
Well, how many bids did we receive?
We've received 4 bids.
Okay.
Yes, we want the lowest one, who's also a local company.
Any other questions? Hear none. I am asking for a motion and a second for approval.
So moved.
Linda, second. Linda Lipka, second.
Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Cassout?
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka? Aye. Councilman Williams?
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah?
Aye.
Councilman Palmer?
Aye.
Resolution number 2024-24 passes. We move to bills requiring first reading. Without objection, we're introduced by council members present. Attorney Carey, could you please read the bill by the title only?
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 7280, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 2023-3730 and adopting an ordinance fixing the salaries and other compensation of all officers and employees of the city as provided in section 2-47, compensation of chapter 2, administration of the code of the city of Ferguson for the fiscal year 2024 through 2025.
City manager.
Yeah, mayor and council, every year we have to adopt a pay ordinance, and this is part of the pay ordinance. We repealed last year's, and this is this year's pay ordinance.
Okay. We move to bill number 7281. Without objections, we're introduced by council members present. Attorney Carey, could you please read the bill by the title only?
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 7281, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 2023-3731 and adopting an ordinance fixing the salaries of part-time employees of the Parks and Recreation Department of the city of Ferguson for fiscal year 2024-2025.
City manager Hampton.
Mayor and council, the prior one was for full-time. This one is for part-time on the salaries.
Thank you. We move to bills requiring second reading. Bill number 7279. I request a motion in a second to read the bill a second time and place it upon its passage.
So moved.
Second. Heather Roman.
Attorney Carey, could you please read the bill?
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 7279, an ordinance of the city of Ferguson, Missouri, granting a special use permit to Letitia Mann for the purpose of operating an adult daycare facility at 607 South Florissant Road, subject to the conditions, restrictions, and requirements set forth herein.
City manager,
I have nothing further.
I have one question. In the special use permit, it states adult care facility and training center. The application just stated adult care facility.
Is she in? Are you in?
It's not a training center? Okay, so this is an error on the special use permit where it says adult care facility and training center. The applicant say it's just an adult care facility. Is that not correct? Okay.
May I make a motion to amend?
Second.
It's already been properly moved in second. So we need to make a motion to amend this, to delete this from it. To, part that say and training center.
Isn't that what her motion was? Yeah.
Mhm.
So we just need to correct the application, ma'am?
Is it on the application?
Her application just say adult care facility, but the special use permit adds a training center to her application. And she just stated it's just an adult care facility. It has nothing to do with training.
So it appeared that the bill is properly written then, correct?
Yes. Is that not correct? Yes.
So we just have to remove two words.
Okay.
It's just because you just vote on the bill, right? Like if you just vote on the bill, the way the language reads, then you don't have an issue. Because you would not have passed, I mean, I know the special use permit language says one thing. But yeah, what you're voting on, is the actual bill.
Oh.
Okay. So what does that do with this part in there? Nothing? Okay, let's move right along.
Well, Mayor, I need to remove my motion.
Okay.
So, Mayor, I'd like to remove motion from the floor and go back to the original document.
Okay, that's bill number 7279. Okay, it has been properly moved in second. And roll call.
Councilman Cassoff,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilman Williams,
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilman Palmer.
Aye.
Bill number 7279 passes. Do we have any unfinished business? Hear none, any new business? Hear none, we move to miscellaneous, starting with Councilwoman Noah.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder, everyone, that the North Hills Ward 3 meeting will be held this coming Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. The meeting is just 1 hour, so any residents who live in North Hills who want to come and support the neighborhood association, that would be great. We're looking forward to this year Ferguson Juneteenth event this Saturday. I'm very excited about that. I would like to thank all of the contributors for all of your hard work. On Friday, June 21st at 1 p.m., Park Ridge Apartments Leasing Office at 1379 Sharondale Circle, 63135 will have a meet and greet. The management of Park Ridge is planning a fun and friendly event for the community. And I do have a quick question for the city manager, if I can ask. Just for clarification, city manager, regarding the mosquito spraying, many residents have inquired. Is the city on a schedule for that, or do residents just call and request that their street is sprayed?
I believe we are on schedule for that. I know there are some streets that have requested not for us to spray.
Right.
And we're gonna abide by that. So if someone's having a problem, please have them send me or Corey Gilbert or Dave Musgrave an email, and we'll make sure that gets taken care of.
But there's a schedule.
Yes, ma'am. And
Okay.
I will get the schedule for everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Councilwoman Noah.
Mhm.
Councilman Palmer,
Nothing from me tonight, thank you.
Councilman Cassoff.
Two quick things. First of all, I want to welcome Letitia to Ferguson. It's a delight to have you, and it was great having a chance to speak with you this evening. Second of all, I got a telephone call today, and as you all know, there was a little bit of controversy regarding the tax bill that we passed in a recent council session. I previously said on Facebook, but in case any of you missed it, those delinquent businesses have paid. I think the only delinquent business at the moment is the building where the USA Market is, in terms of landlord commercial properties. But I got an exciting phone call this morning. Somebody called to let me know that the city of Delwood thought it was such a great idea that they passed the same bill at their city council meeting last night. That's all.
Councilwoman Robinette, thank you, Councilman Cassoff.
I have nothing this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilwoman Lipka.
Yes, ma'am. So, just wanted to kind of touch on a few things. As a council member in Ward 1, I've had residents from Forestwood tell me about car repair going on. And Ms. Moore, you brought that up, during your conversation, about, I didn't know, I have never heard anything about car sales happening, but I have brought it to the various city managers. I have brought it to the various police chiefs. So it is something that we want to address this because it's not fair to the rest of the community.
But if there is a specific address, it would be very beneficial if you would send us an email or something like along those lines. So that, yeah. I would love you for doing that because I've had other citizens who've sent me emails. Okay, well, I've had other citizens who have, and that's helped quite a bit. So, that's how we help you. The other thing I wanted to let you all know, we've had an annual event that's been hosted by the Urban American Outdoors and Black Caucus of Business Owners. And it's a fishing event that happens every year. And this year it went on hiatus for a couple of years because of COVID, but it's back and it's Saturday, June 22nd from 8:30 to noon. It's at January Wabash Park. It is free. We do ask that you register at www.urbankidsfish.com because we will have fishing poles and all kinds of bait for you as well. You must be accompanied by a parent, and ages to participate are 4 to 16. And you might want to make a date to do it because there is a $100 prize for the biggest fish. And it's a lot of fun. Last year, I've done it a couple years with them now. We had a young lady win it the last time. There's also other prizes which are fun. So once again, it's urbankidsfish.com and it's Saturday, June 22nd. And I just want to say for all of you that are going through the whole calling your insurance and everything else, thank you for making the effort to get your new roofs put on and your gutters put on and things like that. It's helping. And also the ordinance states that you're not supposed to really start doing that work till 7 a.m. So.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lipka. Councilman Williams.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on the West Florissant Transportation Development. A lot of roads in Ferguson are owned by St. Louis County. So, we have to get permission to put a speed bump there. But when they came in this evening, they want to do the project on West Florissant, and I probably will vote for that. But the issue I have, a lot of other roads in Ferguson need repair. So it's like you have a used car, the engine is horrible, but you put a nice sound system in it and you put some rims on it, but your engine is bad. It's like, we need to take care of the basics. So I think it would be nice to have that corridor on West Florissant, but what about the other roads? That's just my issue. It's like we're making a used car with a bad engine glorified instead of taking care of the basics. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Clerk Pittman. Thank you, Councilman Williams. Clerk Pittman.
No report.
Attorney Carey.
2 things, Mayor. One, Councilwoman Noah asked about what the ordinances of the city said about sidewalks. If you go to chapter 40, section 40-33, it talks about the responsibility of the sidewalk. So you could go there and figure that out. And the ordinance is consistent with what I call common law, which is, essentially, if you own a sidewalk, you're responsible for the maintenance and repair of the sidewalk. So it's section 40-33 in the code. And then Mayor Jones, I just wanted to sort of explain to you what the council just did with regard to voting with the special use permit. So like if a special use permit came before you and there was something, came before the council and there was something in it that the council didn't want to approve, but they did want to approve the rest of it, they would just have crafted an ordinance to not approve the part that they didn't want to approve and approve the part that they did want to approve. That's essentially what just happened when you voted on that. So that's why we didn't need to change the special use permit, because you guys change, you guys implement ordinances and laws. The special use permit just, it wasn't passed with the training part in it, so we don't have to worry about that. He'll just fix the special use permit to mirror what was actually passed. So, and that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney. Okay. Juneteenth, uh, is Saturday from 4 to 9. The city of Ferguson is sponsoring a Juneteenth. We hope everyone come out. See our table to pick up your t-shirt before noon on Friday. And also we having a Juneteenth, a couple of nonprofits got together and hosting a Juneteenth just for the youth, young people. We have several people who have written books and they will be autographing books talking about Juneteenth as a young person. In addition to that, the State Department has called again and asked that we host a delegation from Japan. And they will be here June the 20th. This is our third or fourth time hosting. So when the United States Department calls us, it's something that, since Ferguson is a global city now, they always want international guests that comes to the United States to come to Ferguson. So we will be hosting a delegation from Japan on June the 20th at 5:30 p.m. at the Brew House. So that's all I have. I request a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.